Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if it's the first time you are joining. Thank you so much for being here today. My name is Hayley and I review fragrances. So today's video is going to be all about the newest fragrances in my collection. And this is probably only going to be a part one of this because I haven't filmed in 4 weeks. I have not been feeling great and a lot of fragrances have built up. They've just been sat there on a separate table waiting for me to talk about them. I always share the newest fragrances in my collection with you on here. So I didn't want this video to be like 20 fragrances long, which is roughly how many I have to get through. So I've split them in half and I'm going to do a part 2 of this at some point. So let me share with you the newest fragrances in my collection and what I think about them. Some of these I did receive in PR. Some were not hits. I don't know if they're in this video or not, but I will talk about which ones were received in PR and which ones I didn't like as well. Sorry if my energy's a little bit low. I'm still not feeling great, but I really wanted to film some content for you and it feels great to be back and just connecting with you. So without further ado, let's jump in to the first fragrance. Next up is the newest release from Gisada, and this one is called Titanium. I did actually receive this one 6 to 8 weeks ago, and I meant to review it sooner just because it is a new release, but I haven't got round to it yet. But I wanted to feature it first in this video because I have been reaching for this one so much over the last 4 weeks when I haven't been feeling well. There is something really calming and comforting about this fragrance. There's quite a prominent lavender note in here, and it gives me this kind of zen-like relaxing feeling, which I have needed so much over the last 4 weeks. It's kind of giving slightly spa vibes. There's a subtle powdery vanilla in the base, but this is very much an aromatic fragrance, very much unisex. To me, it doesn't lean one way or the other. And if you like fragrances similar to Rehab by Initio, they don't smell the same by the way, but it has that kind of calming aromatic feel that is also very zen-like. I think you will love this one. Now, I get a lot of that lavender, lots of aromatic notes, but I do get the sweetness from the vanilla, and it really does pull quite powdery and vanillic on my skin, mixed in with that aromatic vibe and the lavender. It's just been making me feel very cozy over the last few weeks. So I wanted to mention this one first. Really enjoying this one. Such great quality, lasts all day, and yeah, so this is one of the fragrances that I have personally worn the most over the last 4 weeks. Please do let me know if you want a bit more of an in-depth review of this one, but it's such a fantastic fragrance, and actually out of all of the Gisada fragrances that I've tried now, this is definitely my favorite. I think this one is going to be a hit, and like I said, it's unisex, so anyone can wear this one. I mean, anyone can wear any fragrance, but I just want to mention that here because I know some people really do stick to the feminine leaning, masculine leaning vibes, so I thought I would mention that as well. Next up, I have the newest release from Lattafa, and it is Eclaire. I didn't even know this one was launching because I wasn't on social media. I was taking a break, and then this one turned up in the post. I didn't know it was coming. Lattafa had sent me PR once before, so they obviously have my address. And when this came in the post, even though I wasn't feeling well, I was so excited because I was like, what is this? Why have I not heard about it? And the fact that it was called Eclaire and it was in this unique bottle, I was so intrigued. I instantly went online onto their Instagram page, and then I saw all of these kind of teaser slash release photos, and I was like, oh my gosh, this sounds incredible. And it came in this really cool PR box, and it had this, it didn't have an eclair in there, it actually had a cookie. But I wanted to review this as soon as it came out, but I really wasn't feeling up to it. Anyway, I'm rambling, sorry about that. Now, the name is Eclaire, so I assumed this was going to be a chocolate pastry style fragrance with whipped cream, because that is what an eclair is, right? But as soon as I sprayed this one on my skin, It gave me Bianco Latte vibes from Giardini di Toscana, but of course, this one is a fraction of the cost. So, to me, this is pretty much a one-to-one dupe of Bianco Latte. However, I do get a little bit more sweetness in this one. So I'm thinking that maybe a chocolatey vibe is coming through. But because I am so familiar with Bianco Latte, my thoughts are kind of instantly pulled in that direction. So if you have been looking for a fragrance that smells like Bianco Latte, definitely check out Eclaire. I don't know what other people are saying about it because I've not seen any reviews, but that is how I feel about it. And I have to mention, the longevity on this one is absolutely insane. When I sprayed it on my skin, I could still smell it 14 hours later. So that is really impressive, projects beautifully, but to me, the only way I can describe it right now is a one-to-one dupe of Bianco Latte. And I often don't like talking about dupes on my channel, but this is a more affordable option. I know so many of you are going to love this one, and I think it's going to be a big hit. So those were my first impressions on Eclaire by Lattafa. Next up is Tihota by Indult. I have wanted this fragrance for the longest time, but I couldn't purchase it in the UK. Well, there is now a stock list for Indult here in the UK. So if any of you have been wanting to try this brand, I will link the shop down below. The shop is called Indulge, and they did send me this fragrance complimentary in PR. Now, I already own Manakara from Indult, which I purchased with my own money, and it is one of the best, if not the best, lychee fragrance that I have ever smelled. But I have heard all of the reviews on this one. Everyone saying that this is one of the best vanilla fragrances on the market, and I have to agree, this one is incredible. If you love Escapade Gourmand, you will likely love this. If you love Fire at Will by Javoy, you will likely love this. It's in a similar category. It's a very caramelized, sugary vanilla that packs a punch. It smells quite natural, but at the same time, it still has that kind of sweet vanilla fragrance vibe, if that makes any sense at all. Of course, it's not completely natural, but I need a little bit more time to play with this, but I am so excited to have this one in my collection. As I mentioned, this was sent to me complimentary, and I am very grateful for that because I have wanted this fragrance for the longest time. I have a 10% off code with Indulge, which I will link down below. They do stock sample sizes of all of their fragrances, which is so fantastic. Anyway, my first impressions of Tihota from Indult are very strong. I think it will become one of my favorite vanillas, but let's see, time will tell. Next up is the newest fragrance from Montale. Now this is a Harrods exclusive, just launched. I was sent this in PR for review. Now this has a very Harrods vibe to it. Now I know that sounds a little bit strange, but what I find with Harrods exclusive fragrances is they typically have a Middle Eastern flair to them. They normally have oud in them, and they normally have a kind of floral / rose vibe about them. So I don't know if that is something that Harrods ask for in their exclusives because of the type of fragrances their clientele typically buy, but this has that kind of floral rose oud vibe about it. It's quite sweet at the same time, and it has that Montale DNA. If you like fragrances similar to Arabian's Tonka by Montale, I think you will absolutely love this. Very, very strong. My husband loves this one. I need to play around with it a little bit more. I'm going to pop the notes on the screen, but the notes I really pick out in here is the oud, and it's very much the typical kind of oud that Montale uses in their fragrances. I get a kind of floral take. I think there's rose in here. I actually don't know the notes off the top of my head. I haven't done the research yet. I just want to give you the experience that I'm getting on a first impressions. It's got some kind of sweetness in here, whether or not it's a sugary vanilla note, maybe there's caramel, but it's very, very likable. It's definitely got that Harrods vibe about it, as I've mentioned, and it's one of the better Montale fragrances in my opinion. My favorite fragrance from Montale is still Intense Cafe. I really love their newest fragrance, which is called Lucky Candy. I'm thinking about doing a Montale buying guide on my channel. Please do let me know what you think about that, because I feel like not a lot of people talk about Montale anymore, and there are some fantastic fragrances throughout the collection. But if you want to see a more in-depth review about this Harrods exclusive, please do let me know. But on first impressions, I think it's really nice. Next up is a new brand to the market, and this brand is called Neydo. I think that's how you pronounce it. They actually reached out to me and I had to blind pick a fragrance based off notes alone. That is always scary. I decided this time to pick the one where I thought it would be the safest pick based on notes. I don't always do that. This brand is actually inspired around olfactive dreams. It is a very rare phenomenon to be able to smell in your dreams, and they reached out to a number of people who have olfactive dreams, and they captured those dreams in this scent profile. Now, I believe this fragrance was inspired around a strawberry blonde woman who walks into a patisserie, and there is a male behind the counter, and some kind of occurrence happens where a cake tips over, some florals that she's holding go into the air, and the scent that is captured is the cake and the florals combined. And this fragrance is called Blonde Redhead, so a strawberry blonde woman. Now I'm going to read you the notes quickly. The notes are saffron, orange, lime, dates, rose, freesia, fig, nectar, vanilla, chocolate, driftwood, and myrrh. I have to say, this fragrance is incredibly delicious. One of the best fragrances I have personally tried this year. This has really captured me. I think it's so phenomenal. I've got so many fragrances on today because I've been sampling, but this is really unique. I have nothing like this in my collection. This smells like, I get the vibe. It does smell like a delicious patisserie, but you also have florals in here. It almost has this jammy quality to it, but then there's kind of a cakey vibe. There's vanilla. I'm picking out the dates, but I'm also getting soft, beautiful florals. I do get the freesia. I get a soft, powdery rose. So incredible. I think this fragrance is going to be a big, big hit. I absolutely adore it. I think this is a 10 out of 10. It captured me from the moment that I smelt this. So this was the most successful blind buy, not technically a blind buy because it was sent to me in PR, but blind pick. And I know that so many of you are going to love this. So if you're looking for a very feminine, sweet, cakey, floral yet vanillic fragrance that has so many beautiful gourmand notes in there, I would highly recommend checking out this brand. It is so, so special and I love this fragrance. Next up is the newest launch from Kayali, and this one is Vanilla Candy Rock Sugar. So I was supposed to go to an event in London. Mona was at the event, but unfortunately it was timed with me being unwell, so I couldn't attend the event, but I still did receive a bottle in PR. Now, what do I think about this? Okay, this is one of the sweetest fragrances that I have ever personally smelt. It smells like candy. The name definitely sums this up. This is candy with vanilla 28 DNA in the base. This is really good, but I don't know where I would wear this one. It's not the kind of scent profile that I would typically reach for just because it is so sweet. But this is really, really fun. I definitely get bubblegum in the opening, but then I get lots of kind of sugary candy vibes. The PR package came with lots of candy too, like jelly beans and rock candy. You do get the vanilla 28 in the dry down, but there are a lot more sweet notes going through this. The bubblegum is quite prominent to me. Like I said, this is really, really fun, but I don't know when I would wear this one. I need to play around with it a little bit more. I've worn it twice at home because I'm really trying to get the feels for it, the vibe for it. But it feels like this one might be just slightly too young for me, maybe slightly too sweet. But at the same time, I do like it. So I hope that makes sense. It's just not something I would personally gravitate towards, but there is something very attractive and alluring to it, almost Moorish, like you just want to taste it, but not my typical kind of scent profile. But that being said, I think it's really fun and very enjoyable. Next up is the newest fragrance from EPC, which is Experimental Perfume Club, and this is called Pistachio Haiku. Now, this fragrance is incredible. I love the Experimental Perfume Club. They have so many fantastic fragrances. Two of my favorites are Cardamom Moss and Tonka Sesame. Now this has the Tonka Sesame in the base. So EPC as a brand, you will typically see a very similar DNA throughout the fragrances because they use their, I think it's called the Essential line as the base, and they mix together the fragrances in the white bottle to create these ones in the black bottle, which is the signature collection. So I get the Sesame Tonka vibe, or the Tonka Sesame vibe in here, which is one of my favorite Tonka fragrances in my collection. This is just delicious. I can smell it from the lid. But this one's a little bit more woody. It's aromatic. I wouldn't necessarily say this smells like a traditional pistachio fragrance, but I definitely get the pistachio vibe. It's a little bit darker. It's not overly sweet. It's very attractive. Definitely a head-turning fragrance. So if you like Tonka and sesame as notes, and you also like pistachio, you like a kind of woody vibe, you like sweetness, this is a fragrance that's really blown me away. I did receive this one in PR. I do need to play around with it a little bit more before I can give my full thoughts on it. I don't really like to give in-depth reviews until I've really experienced the fragrance and worn it a few times. But on first impressions, I really, really love this fragrance. And if you have tried Tonka Sesame by EPC, I think you will absolutely love this one. Next up, I have the newest release from Nuno's. I was super excited to try this one because I love violet as a note, and this is supposed to smell like violet candy. However, to me, this doesn't smell like traditional violet candy. I definitely get elements of that. This smells like Parma violet candies mixed in with Baccarat Rouge. This definitely has a kind of Baccarat Rouge DNA to it, an airy quality about it with a little bit more moss in the dry down. But then you have that juxtaposition between the amber and the mossy kind of woody, earthy vibe in the dry down. Then it's juxtaposed with that violet powdery candy note. It's really, really interesting. I haven't really figured out what I think about this one yet because it wasn't what I expected. I expected violet candy. But that being said, I do enjoy it, but it's just, I don't know. It's really weird. Like, it's like two magnets. Do they pull together or do they not? I don't know. I know that doesn't make sense. My thoughts are a little bit erratic on this one at the moment, but I will update you on what I think about it. It is a unique fragrance in many ways, but it does have that kind of Baccarat Rouge DNA to it with violet powdery candy in the opening. Time will tell if I like this one. The last fragrance I'm going to talk about today is from Kajal. This is their newest release. I think the bottles are so cool from Kajal. Now, this is a fragrance that I really, really enjoy. It takes me on a little bit of a journey. It's quite a fruity, musky fragrance, but then it goes into this almost aromatic direction as it starts to dry down. Quite reminiscent of Vibrato by Sospiro, but with a more fruity twist to it. I kind of get the Kajal DNA throughout this. So think juicy, fruity, tropical notes such as mango. I do get some pineapple too, but then it's quite musky. I say quite musky, it's very musky actually. There's a passion fruit note in here, which I think I'm perceiving to smell a little bit more like mango. You've got ginger, which gives this bite, and then lots of vetiver in the base. It's really, really interesting actually, because it opens up with that very juicy kind of mango vibe note, which is not actually mango, it's passion fruit. I'm then also getting the pineapple, there's some mandarin, I'm getting that spicy kick from the ginger, and then the kind of musky, aromatic base starts to come through. Interesting on first impressions. It wasn't a full-blown love, but I definitely really enjoy this one. I need to again play around with this a little bit more. Like I said, I have been poorly and I have quite a lot of fragrances to really try out still, but I wanted to give you my first impressions on some of these new fragrances to my collection. I think this one will become somewhat of a love for me, but again, I need to play around with it a little bit more. But first impressions are good on this one, and I think this one will be amazing in the summertime. So those were all of the fragrances that I wanted to go through in today's video. Sorry if I rambled a little bit. This is the first time I filmed in 4 weeks and I'm still not feeling great. So I'm kind of trying to build up my energy to be able to bring you the reviews in a normal manner. But please do let me know if any of these stood out to you and which ones you maybe would like more in-depth reviews on. But I would love to know, what are the newest fragrances in your collection? Please do let me know down in the comments. But thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a pleasure as always. Thank you so, so much, and goodbye.